You're listening to RTI Audio, powered by Rocky Top Insider. This is Pancakes and Bacon with VFL, Kyler Kerbison, and Reed Bacon.
Hello, Vol Nation. Welcome to another episode of Pancakes and Bacon. I am here with Buddy Reed. We are in person today. You know what? Please like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Leave a comment. If you're just listening, rate and review. Follow us on all the social media platforms. It's all in the description below. So please do that for us. This one sucks. This is episode 77, which is even more ironic and sucks even more. But before we jump into a butt whooping, Reed, how we doing, bud?
Kyler, let me just say this. I'm doing well now because
There's a little time removed.
Yeah, it's Monday. It's a beautiful day out. You're in town. We got to spend some time together. You helped me out tremendously today. The wife had picked up an antique dresser, which if you'd not been in town to help me, I don't know what would have happened. That dresser might still be in Oliver Springs. But yeah, I'm excited. Like now that some of the pain of the loss has moved on, I'm excited to dive in and talk about it. I'm excited to hear your opinion on a few things.
Yeah.
I've tried to not take in a ton of content just yet because it's like I said, it's Monday at 2:00 and we're recording. So I'm ready just to get into it. And then I think we'll have time to talk about other stuff besides just the game. But I think the best place for us to start is
your board here?
Yeah, is my board. So we got anyone, anywhere, anytime. That's getting removed. I think
where's your expo?
It should be right over there.
Yeah, that's definitely getting removed now.
So I just had the expo, folks. I don't know what happened to it.
Professionalism, Reed. Where the frick are you?
Yeah.
Where the frick is it?
I don't know where it went. Literally, it was like right here. It's probably like in my pocket or whatever. Anyways, when I find it, because I don't want to hold this up, I'll find it and I'll write down and it'll make sense here in a minute. Oh, I got it. I knew it right where I put it. If it was a snake, it would have bit me.
God. You see what I got to deal with? Y'all see what I got to deal with?
If you're listening, I apologize. We just went through my office trying to find a dry erase marker. So
It's wild.
So
shout out Nixon's, no free ads.
Yeah. So it was an ass whooping. That's what it was. Kyler had a funny one. He could have said you got knocked out from Friday, and Chris Tucker, which is a great movie and a great quote. I just said ass whipping. It's for me. Pardon my French. I don't like to cuss. But Kyler, this is where I start with this game. Watching it, rewatching it, taking in some of the social media stuff, and I will admit, Megan and I had a Christmas party to go to here in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Start at 6:30. I said, fine, no problem. We'll get there. We'll say hello. We'll dip out. I'll be home plenty enough time. Now, I was home in time before kickoff.
Okay.
But I was not in home in time to start seeing things on social media beforehand. I start seeing the guys running out with no shirts on, warming up with no shirts, maybe a little trash talking here and there. I then see the video of Heupel coming off the bus,
yes,
and getting rowdy. And I immediately, unfortunately, thought back to the first time I saw that, and I quote tweeted it, and it was last year at Florida where we lost.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the game I was going into, like, I think we beat this team by 10 down there in the swamp. And I just had a really bad feeling when I saw that video, and it's literally about to be kickoff because I'm grabbing my phone. As I said home, I'm going through some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, that's almost like not a good omen. I was like, he's fired up. It's making me feel the same way. I was like, man, I hope we don't go and lay an egg like we did in Florida. And unfortunately they did. But, I took the quote off. I left it up and then took it off on purpose while we were on here because it was anyone, anywhere, anytime. He said, you got to be focused on the right things. And I even listened to Heupel after the game, and I don't know if you have, but I even really respect everything he said afterwards. Like,
yeah, I listened to it.
I thought everything he said was true. Like, he was honest. He said we didn't coach well enough, we didn't play well enough. So I appreciate him, and I think he's always a little bit more honest after the fact than he is going into it. But my thing to say all that, to say this, man, if you say anywhere, anytime, put the ball down, let's play. You got guys warming up with no shirts. You can't go get your ass kicked. You can't do it. I don't think, and this is just my opinion. Kyler could have a different one. You all listening and watching could have a different one. And this comes from someone who played, when I played sports, I don't care if it was in high school, at college, or if it was in intramurals or in an old man rec league, or if I'm just playing pickup hoops. Like, I like to talk a little bit, but the one thing is you're never going to catch me talking and either not back it up or not shut my mouth when things are going bad. And I'm not saying I saw guys talking after we started getting worked, but it just doesn't look good and feel good on a national stage when you're coming out with no shirts on. And my goodness, the fans. We've always said it. Vol Nation is up there with Bills Mafia. I'm talking NFL.
Yeah,
I'm talking.
There's not many examples of other fan bases, especially in college, that you can look back on like you can with Tennessee fans and how much they support this program, how much they stick with the program through 15 years of horrible play, horrible coaching, how much they literally changed their program by not accepting a coaching hire, how they travel to every single game that is not in our stadium. They travel well. We've always gotten Florida bowl games in the past because our fans travel the best. We definitely had the most fans of any four of those playoff games in that stadium. And I think that is what Heupel was so fired up about.
I agree.
Here's my thing. You said, like, when you do that, you can't get your ass whooped. Can't get your ass whooped regardless.
Good point.
Can't get your ass whooped regardless.
Good point.
And those two things, I thought Heupel getting fired up when he saw the fans walking out of the bus was because throughout the week, everyone had said Tennessee fans are buying tickets, had said Tennessee fans are going to be there, but you didn't know. You weren't for certain. There wasn't, like, you didn't know exactly how many tickets were bought. That was when Heupel knew that Tennessee fans were there for him. And he was like, dude, I'm fucking blessed to have this fucking job. I have to think that's what he thought in that moment. It was like, this is the best shit because every single one of these people are here and they're supporting us. And I'm fired up that they're here and I appreciate them. So guess what? I'm dapping up all y'all. I appreciate it.
And it is very much that natural, even to this day and time. You and I can hear a song. We can see something. We can walk into a stadium. We can see people. We just start getting juiced. So you're probably right. He probably just walked out and saw everyone, and it just hit him.
When we went to the Outback Bowl my last year, we got off the buses about a quarter mile away from the stadium. And fans on both sides of just piled and ready for us. And it was like, I have to show, I have to dap everybody up. I have to say, hell yeah, let's go. Thank you for being here. Because it's the same feeling of a Vol walk, but now you're in enemy territory and they showed up for you. You know what I mean? And it's like anybody on the internet who's almost trashing Tennessee fans, like you talked all this shit about taking over the stadium, then got your ass beat. Tennessee fans didn't get their ass beat.
Yeah.
They showed up and did what they needed to do.
Yeah,
they showed up. They were like, listen, I only have this much that I can control, and I'm going to try and do my best. Yeah. And that's what they did. So if the team gets whooped, you can't take it on the fans. Vol Twitter is still the best. It is still – we're still the biggest assholes on the internet and still the best fans in the country. That doesn't change because Tennessee got whooped by Ohio State. That part does not change.
No, I agree, and I think that's a valid point and a good point. Like, the fans and the team that we support did not play well; they lost. But it's like the fans don't discredit what they did, and I think it's a good point. Like, if you were there and you went and you're leaving, and Ohio State can say what they want to say, but it's Kirk Herbstreit, an Ohio State guy, but who's been around college football his whole life, said multiple times, like, this is the most fans I've ever seen. And I think, and I always say it, that support is what makes this job great.
Yep.
It's also what can make this job a little tough.
Very difficult.
So, but I'll just say, like, I think that's why Tennessee is always going to be somewhat of the upper echelon, because you're always going to have resources and buy-in and tons of fans that will support you and pay money and put the money up. So anyways, and I'm glad that we can have this back and forth. Like I said, I'm not standing on some hill and dying on it that it's embarrassing that we went out there and warmed up with no shirts on and anywhere, anytime. We're, if you're focused on that, you're just here for a cup of coffee. And I get like why all those things were said. And like I said, I'm not dying on that hill that it's embarrassing and bad. Like, it just stinks. Like, it's just frustrating that it happened.
Mm-hmm.
I think my biggest question for you, and basically anyone I talk with that I respect their opinion on stuff like this, and I haven't asked you this yet, is do you think that Tennessee was just outmatched by a team that has better talent? Like, do you think if you switch Josh Heupel and Ryan Day, is it the same thing? I mean, is it the same outcome? I mean, do you feel like if we played them in Knoxville, is it different? Do you feel like they just underachieved all year and they finally put that 20 million roster together?
I think they had a little piss and vinegar to them. I think that makes a difference. I think there are certain positions that it does show how good they are. But at the same time, when I watch film and I look back on it, I'm like, what's plagued us all year is our offense starts slow and we can't get things going because of poor execution. And that's what happened. Our offense started slow. We didn't get things going because of poor execution. So it's like, that's not that much different. And, the defense, I really expected more out of just because they have had our back all year, that I thought, hey, they're going to get stops for us in the first half. They're not going to let this team score. But I saw a lot of times where guys are getting beat. I mean, guys are getting beat one-on-one. I mean, I saw our defensive linemen getting put on the dirt in one-on-one situations. Not double teams, one-on-one. So it's like that kind of stuff. I watch, Ricky Gibson get a touchdown scored on him in a one-on-one situation. That's the only guy he's got. That's the only guy he's covering, and he gets beat for it. I saw Jamal McCoy in a one-on-one situation get beat. Now, it was a fantastic throw. It was the perfect placement, but they executed and we didn't. It's like, I'll point out some of the stuff that happened on offense in those first few drives that really kind of changed the game and make a big difference when you're dealing with momentum, because it's like, hey, maybe your drive's a little bit longer. The defense rests a little bit more. They're not as tired. And maybe they are able to stop them on their second drive or third drive. But when you don't score at all on offense and they're up 14 points and you have 3 offensive plays so far, that's tough. It's tough on the defense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They got up to 21 points and we had 6 offensive plays. We went 3 and out, 2 drives. And that's just like, the defense has already played 30 snaps. They're already tired at that point. It's like, we haven't done any favors for them all year, and we didn't do any favors for them on Saturday. And our best player on our entire team could not play. I mean, Dylan Sampson tried his best. He tried his best, but that last play versus Vanderbilt, that was a pulled hamstring. And nobody said anything about it. They didn't put anything out there. But when I saw him On that last play, I got nervous, and that's exactly what it was. It was a pulled hamstring. He's been trying to nurse it this whole time. Probably didn't practice that much at all. And it was a game-time decision nobody knew about. And he couldn't do it. You saw him running on the sideline, trying to loosen it up, trying to do more. And you could see it on his face. He's like, I'm not the same. I can't run the same. Even these plays that he had, it's like he couldn't make cuts. He wasn't able to like burst like you want him to. And it's like he's the best player on our team. Like James Pierce is great, but Dylan Sampson is the best player on our team. He's the best offensive player in the SEC. And we couldn't use him.
So, and I hear you, and I agree with everything that you're saying. And it was definitely the avalanche effect that, as Tennessee fans, we've seen us do to teams. You know, Missouri, South Carolina, LSU. We even jumped out on Bama, the 22, and then they came back, but we ended up closing it out. So I've seen us do it, but I do want to hear a yes or no, your thought. Like, do you think they were just outmatched talent-wise and that there was probably not much even – let me say this. Well, first off, do you think that we could beat them in Neyland? Because you and I left the last pod, and I told multiple people I felt like if Tennessee played one of their best games of the year, I think that we could win. Watching what I watched, I think Tennessee has to play their absolute best game of the year, and Ohio State probably has to play middle of the pack, middle of their – I'm talking potential, middle pack of their potential.
I think it's possible. I think it's possible at Neyland for us to win that game. And the reason why I think it's possible is because I think it's a closer game. I think there are certain times where like the freaking false start when we're down in the red zone and we end up just getting a field goal where it's like that doesn't happen in Neyland. I think like some of the crowd noise for them while they're on offense trying to go fast and trying to do like that affects them and maybe slows them down a little bit, and they don't have 3 touchdown drives in the first quarter.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a closer game. Maybe it's 14-10 at halftime. Even if that, like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And that I'm like, maybe it's a closer game because of that home field advantage. So I mean, home field makes a difference. It does.
For sure.
But I mean, when I watch this game, I do see horses out there that they have that are better than ours. I see performances by their guys that are better than ours. Now I see other positions where we're better, but you know, I don't think their corners were really tested like our corners were during that game.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say that their corners are better than McCoy. I wouldn't say that Jack Sawyer is way better than James Pierce. He had a couple batted balls, and he beat guys around the edge, which I get frustrated with because I know exactly like what's going on, and I'm like, "What? How did you guys get beat like this?" But like, I think their tackles are better than our tackles. I think their quarterback is better than our quarterback right now. I think their running back is on par with Dylan. I think that's an even wash. And I think their linebackers are better than our linebackers.
Yeah.
So it's like there are positions where I'm like, yeah, they are better. Their wide receivers are better than our wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean,
that's true.
And you know what? I'm glad I asked because that you just are breaking it down in a way that I didn't think. I mean, I was watching the game and you're like
I don't want to say our overall players are not as good, but it's like in certain positions – yeah.
And that's a good way to, like I said, to break it down because you're sitting there watching this and it's easy to be like, oh, we're just outclassed, outmatched right now. And I'm like, well, are we? Or are they just playing really well and clicking? Because then when you look at it and you break it down and think about it, it's a play here and there. Meaning, you know, we've seen Ricky in man coverage against Georgia where he makes that play and he doesn't score. But then the next throw that they make that goes and it literally goes, barely to the side of Jacoby Thomas's head and in his arms. I mean, he actually did a good job. That was actually not a good throw, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. He got very fortunate to make that completion. and even it just very much. So that's why I asked, and that's why I've still been contemplating, because I can admit that it was an avalanche. Like, they jumped on us, and it was going to be really tough to come back. But I think you hit the nail on the head, at least for me, to have an aha moment to be like, yeah, think about it. Like, okay, receivers, they get the edge. Offensive line, they get the edge. Running backs, probably about the same. Tight ends, maybe a wash. Maybe ours is a little bit better. I don't know. I didn't maybe dive into that enough. But then D lines, like, it's harder for me to still really.
And it's like the entire game, not one. After Ohio State got their first down, they never felt tight the entire rest of the game.
Which is
huge.
They
didn't have the pressure. They were up the entire time. Just think about, like, say we don't get the false start and we end up scoring a touchdown. Okay. Say it's 14-21. They're still winning. Say it's 14-21 at halftime. And Dylan Sampson's playing. You don't think their defense on that drive coming out of half is a little bit more tight?
Oh, for sure.
A little bit more like, I got to make this play. And that changes the way you play the game. If you have all this confidence and you're like, their star running back's not in, and now their quarterback has to do everything.
Yeah.
The only success they're having is him running the ball. Like, I cannot wait to hit him. Like, you have a different approach to the entire game. So it's like, that's why it's so difficult for teams to come back. Because how comfortable is it when you're up 21?
Agreed.
It's so comfortable.
And that's what we did to teams, and we have done to plenty of teams.
That's why LSU could not beat us when we went down there. We got up 21, and they were like dead.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's beautiful about Heupel is he would knock them out in the first round, and then it's just over with. And so I think that's what I was telling Megan watching the game. Like, I'm struggling with, like, I know they're playing better, but are they just this much better, or is it just the Avalanche? Because if you ever play anything and you were in a competition against someone else and you start whipping them like that, you play so different and so free, which usually results in you playing one of your best games because you're not thinking, you're not nervous. So I agree with you. And then just to finish off, like, because now I'm just doing this out loud, but, linebackers, I'm going to take their linebackers. Safeties, I'm going to take their safeties. Like you said, corners, might be a wash. But, like, when you look at it overall, you did a little check marks this side. Like, yeah, they probably do have the better starters. We know they have the better roster total, and we know that they have the better depth. I think it was just weird for me because, like, I haven't studied Ohio State, and I told you that. Only thing that I had seen with my eyes when we talked on the podcast before this is, like, I watched them against Penn State. I wasn't that impressed. I watched them against Indiana. I really wasn't that impressed. And then I didn't catch a lot of the Michigan game, but I kind of throw that out with the bathwater because it is a rivalry game and stuff just happens. And so I don't know if I just said it on the spot already or if I haven't, if I told you earlier today, but, like, them losing to Michigan was probably one of the worst things to happen to us.
Yeah.
I still feel like the same feeling I felt when I was sitting eating brunch after Mass 2 weeks ago and it dropped and it said, we got to go play Ohio State. I was upset that we weren't getting a home game. We kind of knew that wasn't going to happen, but I was like, I want to see where we are, how we match up, and let's go take the fight to them because we really were playing with house money.
Yeah,
I told people.
I said that. I told people that.
I mean, at the Christmas party before I came home to watch the game, 10 minutes before kick, I said, I don't know how it's going to go. I said, I think Ohio State wins. I said, but I'm really excited. I just want us to play well, which is what happened in Georgia. Remember, I got on here and said I didn't expect us to play that good offensively against Georgia to start off. And
we were like, we're not going to win this game unless our offense clicks. I said multiple times the Mississippi State and Kentucky game were my barometers for whether I thought the offense was going to be back and be able to keep up with Georgia. I was like, I don't know. Yeah. I really don't. And that's why we were just like 17 and a half. Yeah. Wow. Okay. They like made us believe again.
And that's why I'm up there at the party and I'm like, yeah, like, the only thing that I'll be pretty disappointed when or upset with is if we get blown out. And we did. And it's just not good optics. If you can even keep it close, make it only a 10-point game or whatever, it just changes things. And I've thought about I've thought about this. And, the Georgia is the perfect example for me as a mindset going into that game. I don't necessarily think we win that game because I don't think our offense is going to be good enough and defense will be good enough to keep us in. Well, I didn't think the defense played as good as they needed to play in that Georgia game, and the offense did. Coming right back to this Ohio State game, Kyler, I'm going to say this, and people are going to be like, well, that's a hot take, and that's outlandish, but, like, the defense really let us down in this game.
Yeah.
As bad as the offense was, as bad as offensive was, the defense let us down because they are the ones that we have to count on.
We played 12 games, and you guys are the ones that lead this team.
Right.
That's known. Nico is not the leader of this team. The defense is the leader of this team.
Everyone listening to this, everyone watching this, everyone that has watched Tennessee and followed has known this year that the offense was very up and down and not dependable and inconsistent. And so that says, okay, well, the defense is going to have to play good enough to keep the offense in it until we start making plays. Mm-hmm. Well, what the hell happened is the defense didn't show up, didn't make plays, and the offense looked exactly like it looked against Arkansas to start off, or against whoever else.
Alabama, Florida,
anybody that we started off poorly against. That's what it looked like, except for the fact that you look up and it's 21-0 compared to 10. 3-7, whatever the defense has done all year. And so,
I mean, that's why I told people, I was like, if you're going to make a bet, take the under. It's going to be a low scoring game. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 7-0 at halftime, Ohio State, and we're down, because we've been in that situation a lot this year.
Yeah. And I think that's where at first I was, once again watching it, I'm like, damn, like, was our defense a little overrated? I mean, are we just not playing well? There is a valid thing about the two best teams that we've played with Georgia and Ohio State kind of did what they want to us defensively.
Yeah.
And then I go back and watch it, and I was like, there's still a couple run plays early in the game that I thought that we did a pretty good job against the run. And then I'm just like, you know what? Maybe we're a little slightly overrated, a little bit defensive line. You and I still knew that the linebackers had questions, and we were still a little questionary about the safeties, even though Will Brooks had a good year and the other ones were fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I've watched it now, and I'm just like, I think Ohio State was almost damn near perfect on offense play calling. Everything they did, I pretty much loved it. I knew exactly why they did it. They're not going to let him drop back and stand back there and give our D time to eat, because there were still times early in the game. Pierce was getting back there. Bryson Easton was getting back there. Joshua Joseph was getting back there. And so all they did exactly what Vandy or Arkansas or all these other teams tried to do, even Mississippi State, East and West, get us looking, get the ball out quick. Our D-line doesn't get a chance to eat. We're really not going to test you a ton in the run game because you're pretty good there, and then we're going to take our shots. Well, in those other games, when they took their shots, they didn't complete them.
Mm-hmm.
East and West, they're not as talented and as fast as Ohio State. So instead of going for 10, they went for 4.
Yeah.
And so,
Ohio State did a very good job of using their pass to set up their run.
Agreed.
That is what they did. And those play actions with guys coming across the formation into the flat really affects our linebackers, which is our weakness. And really makes it to where it's like, hey, great, we're going to hit a guy in the flat and gain 5 yards. They want that.
Yeah.
They don't need 18, 20, 30 out of that play. They want 5, because the next time they do it, that linebacker is going to over pursue, and that run is just going to hit up the gut.
Yeah. Yeah, and before we start jumping into plays, I think the only other thing kind of overarching that I would want to talk about or kind of want to dive into besides, let's see, so it was the offense. Like I said, I was very impressed with what they did offensively. I understand why they did it, how they did it. There was one other thing I wanted to ask you before we got into plays, and now I can't remember. Anyways, is there any other overarching, anything else? I know what it was. It's kind of overarching. There was a part of me, and I don't really even know how to feel about this, that when the guys start dropping and getting injured and it's going down, I do start thinking about these guys that left in the portal. And as we're recording this, we're not really going to dive into it, but last night, Christian Harrison into the portal, which I like Christian Harrison. I think he's a pretty good player. We just saw that Jason Jenkins goes in, which Kyler and I both liked him as well, thought he was a pretty good player. I don't know what ends up happening with those guys. Obviously, Tennessee's a little bit behind the 8 ball now because they were focusing on a game, which half of me says if we're a little bit behind the 8 ball, then we need to hire some more people, because if you're not having a full-time talent acquisition department, that's all they focus on.
Yeah.
And I know that you still have to get your coaches to watch it and be like, hey, we really like Kyler Kerberson from X, Y, and Z. So I know they can't make the final decision. You still got to get the coaches to watch it.
Yeah.
But I hate that being behind the 8 ball. Anyways, there was a part of me watching that game, and you see the receivers go down, and I'm like,
Braylon Staley comes in,
and I'm like, and I like Braylon, and I like Mike,
I do too,
and I like those guys. But I'm sitting and listen, I thought Braylon looked good. I thought he looked fine.
I thought he did too, but as a fucking freshman,
Edwin Spillman,
you know what I mean? It's just like
I thought
in a playoff game, that's when you're getting your most snaps.
I thought Edwin Spillman looked good speed wise for a freshman. I thought Peyton Lewis was probably his better game that I'd watched. Like there was time still. We'll get into it. We're talking offensively. Like I felt like if we could have stayed in our offense with Dylan Sampson, I think we can run the ball on him.
I agree,
but because and that's
I agree.
Anyways,
I think he makes a huge difference.
To finish that point, I would still watch that game, and you see wide receivers dropping, and you're like, and I'm just sitting here like, get the fuck out, bro. Like thinking about like Caleb Webb transferring. It's like, sweet dude, enjoy Wake Forest. And this is me being like the annoyed fan side because like as a person, I'm like, dude, if that's what you think is best, you got to go do it. And I'm never going to default anyone from that. But as I watch a team that you went to battle with, that you were trying to win a national championship with, and you dip out and now your dudes are hurt, and it's like, well, you could have had your opportunity again here. Chaz, where are you? Nathan Leacock, where are you? But then again, part of me is like that's annoying. They could have been here to help their guys. You know, we were one player away from going down and having a walk-on on. And then I was like, you know what? We probably weren't going to win the national championship anyways this year. Like, screw those dudes. Like, let them go do their thing. And then the other thing I thought about is like, you know what? Caleb, Chaz, Nathan, like, they've been here. They had their opportunity. They didn't seize it. So I don't know why I'm thinking they're going to seize it against Ohio State. So whatever. But it
seize it next year.
It definitely just adds that other layer of like you see these individuals start going down. It's like, well, Cam Selden, you could have potentially played. Hell, Khalif, whatever his name is, could have potentially had played something in this game. But I don't know. It just added a different layer to me. And I don't know if that's the case for fans listening or if you were like, it's kind of annoying because
it's just annoying the way that the schedule works out. I really don't blame the guys because if you're a number 4 on the depth chart here and you're like, hey, I can actually go to still a Power 5 but smaller school. They will still pay me, and I can be number 1.
I get it.
I mean, I get it.
I do too.
Like, it makes sense.
I do too, but it's still frustrating. And obviously, it hasn't changed Christian Harrison or Jason Jenkins entering. They at least finished the season and finished what they started, and now
they're getting a lot of playing time. And now with those kind of guys that are entering, it is almost like just like a bargaining chip for them. It's a wide receiver in the NFL who just had a really good year, who doesn't re-sign, who just enters free agency. He's like, okay, like let's see what happens.
Yeah,
I would love to stay in this city, but if another place offers me more, and I'm still going to be wide receiver 1, no matter where I go, then I'm going to go get paid.
Yeah.
So it's like this is kind of just how it is now. So like that's what Christian and Jenkins are both thinking. Yeah, I got some playing time. I got some good playing time this year. But Christian was like, I was splitting time with a freshman. I was splitting time with Boo Carter,
right?
A freshman, who's going to get better,
right, and who play more. I get it. I agree.
It is part of the game.
I guess this last question too, and we'll save it. We'll save it for the next pod, like the end of the year pod, is like what we need to do moving forward.
Yeah,
as a roster, I guess we'll just save that. So let's just dive into to plays.
We'll just dive in. I got defense first, and it's tough. That first drive, it was really quick. We had a couple plays where we got into a 3rd and 2. Bryson Easton gets a sack, and there's a face mask, and it's like, damn, that sucks. Like, hey, shit happens. Sometimes you get a face mask. You can't it's hard for any coach or anybody to be like, Bryson, don't grab his face mask there. It's like he's trying to fucking get a sack. So they get a first down, and then it's 2 plays later where they hit it in the absolute breadbasket over Ricky. And there was so the way I look at that play is like, okay, everybody's doing their job. Everybody's where they need to be. The rush is coming. They're getting close. And Ricky has 1 second, a little hesitation, and that's all it took.
Yeah.
Does that mean that Tim Banks is a bad defensive coordinator and Ricky's a bad corner? No. But did they not execute? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the running back wheel down the sideline had Joshua Josephs supposed to be the guy to cover him. And it's like, do I want Joshua Josephs covering a running back on the wheel route? Probably not. I'd rather have somebody else out there. That's the way the defense got drawn up. That's what they caught us in, and they took advantage of it.
And that's where I just looked at on those first couple of plays where I just hat tip to Chip Kelly. And we got to remember, I know Chip Kelly's name doesn't hit the same as it did in 2010. But the guy is a fantastic football coach, whether it was when he was a head coach at Oregon.
And the reason he failed in the NFL is because he tried to run it like a college, and none of those guys were fucking having it. They're like, get the hell out of here. You're not testing my piss and seeing how much I sleep.
Yeah.
Get off me. I'm a grown man.
Yeah. And the thing is it did fail ultimately, but he still won games in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, he still had some success, and then he comes back into college, and I totally get if I'm Chip Kelly and if there's not a head coaching job at a big school that I like, I would love to go to Ohio State and just worry about the offense. I don't have to worry about necessarily recruiting or NIL and all that stuff. Let me just coach ball, and I know I'm going to have athletes here. I totally get it. But, I mean, I just thought it was a very, very good first play call, and little stuff that he does. It's the little stuff that I love about Heupel. It's some of the same little stuff that I loved that Chip Kelly did. So on that first little swing route, when they throw it out there, it's not two receivers blocking. They have two tight ends blocking.
Yes.
So they have a tight end on a linebacker and a tight end on a corner.
Yeah.
That is what you want compared to a receiver trying to block a linebacker and then, a linebacker on a corner. Then they have the bad throw, but it looked like he still had plenty of time. And then Bryson Eason eats. And I'm sitting there watching that, and I'm like, okay, that's good. I'm seeing where our hopeful advantages can be. And I still sit here to this day and say, if we play this team again and it doesn't get that lopsided, that I still feel like there were times our defensive line could have gotten good pressure. There were still times where I've already mentioned that I feel like if Dylan Sampson is healthy, even if Dylan Sampson's not, if the game allows us to run, there were going to be times where I felt like we could have run on them.
I did too.
And so it's there's still times where I felt like
they had light boxes at times.
Yeah. JP has a really good backside rundown. And then you got him where you want him, Kyler. Even after the 3rd and 2, and you think you're getting off the field and you get a face mask, you got him at 2nd and 16. It's okay, great. Second and 16, second and 16, and then they get the great design, and we just happen to be in pressure. But it was a rub route. He knows he's going to run the wheel route, and so whether it's Chip Kelly knows it doesn't matter who's going to be in there with the back out of the backfield. He knows that he can rub route him. So he brings number 1 in. It's an easy throw for Will Howard. He's getting him in the motion. It's a big play. It's well, damn, kudos to them. Mm-hmm. And then, I don't know what Ricky was looking at. I don't know where
from the the zoomed out view, they eventually show it on the replay. But Ricky's running with Jeremiah, and then all of a sudden just goes stops for a second.
Yeah.
In the route. Jeremiah's running 9. He's going.
I know.
He's running straight, not doing anything else. And it's kind of what was that, Ricky? Where are you looking at?
Yeah. And then going to their next defensive possession, it's another great play design by Chip. He puts, I think it was Jeremiah Smith or one of their other really good receivers. They have him in the slot, and he's really, really tight to the line of scrimmage. And they don't bring him in pre-snap motion. They literally call hut, and they bring him, and he comes under behind the line of scrimmage. And what happens, 2 things on that play that hurts Tennessee is we brought Boo Carter on a blitz. And so Boo is now not in that area in coverage. So now that area is vacated. And then they have a very small tight end just basically turn and hook up and show hands. So then T-Lander is the linebacker, I believe, on that side that he's well, I see this guy screaming to the flat, but if I run and take him, then he's going to dump it to this tight end, and this tight end is going to get upfield quicker than this guy can. Mm-hmm. So he has to slow play it, and then it was just little small things like that I thought were great. Then you get another nice play design where they it's the shot where I was talking about where you got Jacoby Thomas back at safety, and they run number 3. He's very tight split again. It's honestly a lot like the same play that Alabama ran with Devontae Smith against Ohio State a couple years ago in the playoffs, where he was in the slot tight and a linebacker tries to guard him. Well, this time they take him, and our safety does a good job getting back there. But I thought Will Howard either A, needs to throw it on him quick when he gets behind the linebackers, or he needs to lead him, because Jacoby Thomas does a really good job of recognizing, even if it is a little late, and getting there. And he does this. And if you're watching, I mean, the ball literally goes beside his head, in between his arms.
Yeah.
So if he had just waved his arms or done something, it's a batted ball. Now, I know what everyone's going to say. Turn your head around. At that point in time, since he was a little late recognizing getting there,
he's sprinting.
He's doing everything to
You turn your head, you slow down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or you just miss the ball completely.
Yeah.
So it's different if I'm running with you and we're running corner and receiver, and we're running, and I kind of have you, I can feel you, and I can turn to try to find and play it. Not where you're beat and you got to catch up. His biggest thing is, holy crap, I just got to get back here. Yeah. So he did basically everything he could do at that point in time, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. We just got unfortunate that the ball, and that's another thing is too. Listen, Tennessee was not winning this game the way that they played and the way Ohio State was playing. But it definitely did have a feeling of that night where it was like kind of everything's going their way. Like that throw's a perfect throw, goes through a helmet and arm. They almost have a fumble on a mesh concept.
It's like on the guy's hip.
On his hip.
He's still able to collect it.
Then the punt return that Caleb Down fumbles.
Yeah.
But he gets it back. And that time the game's still 14-7. So maybe the 14-0.
The first third down stop with a sack and
a face mask.
Yeah,
it was just those little things that I just added up where you've been around sports long enough, played them long enough, you're like, damn, it just might not be it for us. And you know what I mean? So do you have any defense stuff you want to talk about there?
After that play over Jacoby, I mean, we're down in the end zone, we're down at the goal line, and I see Amari Thomas and Dominique Bailey get absolutely bodied in one-on-one. One-on-one. It's not double teams. They get moved into the end zone. And I'm like, sitting here going, who am I supposed to depend on?
Yeah.
The D line is who I'm supposed to depend on. And their interior offensive line is supposed to be bad. And I got Dominique Bailey on multiple touchdowns scored in the game, getting moved by tight ends. Like, what is this? You're not supposed to be getting moved by a tight end one-on-one. So those kinds of things, they're just really frustrating.
And that could go to that talk about, well, are they just better talented and have better players? But I thought, not to get into small details, but I thought the one that they actually scored on that Amari Thomas got double teamed is what I thought I saw. But the point can still stand. We still got moved.
Yeah. I think the one you're thinking about is later.
Okay.
The first one, Amari's, it's one-on-one with Amari and Bailey. Let's see. Next drive.
That next one I have.
I thought Arian did a good job. He attacked the blocker on the screen bubble. Thought he did good. They had this play design where they're running counter to the right, and the running back is actually like going on a swing pattern to the left, and it confuses every single linebacker, where it's just so difficult for them to read. They're thinking a counter's coming this way. Actually, we're just going to swing it out there. We got blockers in front. I mean, it's a fantastic play design. I thought it was awesome. They hit this like concept of just sending the guy on a go route and hitting a corner underneath. They did it 3 times on big downs all throughout the game, where it was like, hey, we need it first. We need about 15 yards. We're going to send a guy going straight, takes the safety back, and then they just have someone coming underneath. And they did it on this drive. And then, this is the touchdown run that ends up where they go up to 21, and they run counter, and Jackson Moy gets put on his fucking back by a guard. Not a guard and a tackle, not a guard and a center. He gets put on his freaking ass by one dude, and he's in the freaking hole. Arian Carter comes up, and instead of having to put my hands in this guy's chest, take on the block, and look for the running back, he ducks his head and runs over the puller, takes himself out of the play. Like I give a shit if I'm the pooler, if you run into me. I don't care. You're not tackling the running back. It's like that kind of stuff's idiotic. Will tries to come up and make the tackle, but he's in a bad position, open field, and that running back just gets the edge, and it's a touchdown.
So one thing that's always talked about when we lose, and I have heard it and seen some of it on this one, what was your thoughts on, hey, we're sitting back in zone, you got a man coverage, but then it's, well, if you man, then they get run by on mesh concepts and stuff like that. And I'm actually watching the Skycam version here because I like to have it up. And they're just now talking about the play where they ran out when we actually showed a man blitz. It's 3rd and 5. We showed that we're going to man blitz. We're going to have the guys feed it 8 yards and man up. And then it ended up being they dropped out of it. It was zone blitz, and Will Howard knew right where to go to the ball on the out route. And he fit it right over the corner, which, the corners playing that little out route, which is it's a typical design in football, but they did it well. But I don't know, what was your thoughts of? Did you feel like Tim Banks was trying to do kind of whatever he could? Was there something that you're like, hey, you should have stuck with man, you should have stuck with zone, or whatever else?
I don't know. I really do think that their offensive game plan was really good. The way they started drives with crossers going across the middle, with what we said before with like the play action with guys coming from the backfield into the flat, those kinds of things, it's very difficult versus man. Just like horrible to try and get to that versus man. And we're in it. We're in man. It's just okay, we'll just do this. And it's, hey, I'm going to catch you in this certain spot. And I think they just did a very good job of that, just really catching Tim Banks on his heels. I think it made a difference that, they got up, they were up, they stayed up. You look at the game and you're like, hey, Tennessee got their ass whooped, right? Ass whooping. That's what everybody's saying online. We scored that touchdown before half, and we have the ball coming out of second half. If we score, it's 17-21. Where is the ass whooping at that point? It's not one anymore, right? People don't consider it one anymore, even though it was very quick, 21-0. They don't consider it because you scored 17 unanswered. So it's like,
well, depending on how it would have finished.
Depending on how it would have finished. But it's like, if it's 17-21, how does Will Howard play? How does the offense get called by Chip Kelly? How does Ryan Day coach? How does Tim Banks coach moving forward? I think differently. I think everybody plays and coaches differently in different situations. So it's just like, it was so close where you had the opportunity to not make it one of those ass whoopings, and you didn't execute.
Yeah.
And it really just, like you said earlier, avalanched.
Yeah, that's kind of.
It's like, even though the defense played bad to start the game, you still had a chance. If your offense can execute coming out of half, you still have a chance to be in this game.
Yeah. No, yeah, very much. And that's why I was so fired up when we did the score and go down and show some resolve and show some fight, even if it was like junior varsity football where you just let the quarterback, the best player, just run around.
Yeah.
Even if you have to do that, I love the fight.
Yeah.
I just think it kind of goes to the same thing, and this is just me personally, when I'm watching a game where you can kind of tell like the ball's bouncing a certain way. And I could be watching it as not a fan, just a normal, like, meaning one of my teams isn't playing. But you can watch an NFL game or another college game and be like, man, like, they're just not getting the breaks, and it is what it is. I kind of equate this to the same thing of they're just dictating to the other team. They are absolutely, and whether it's offensively or defensively or both.
And it's like the plays that could have been made by defense weren't.
Right.
So like the crosser that comes across and Charles from his safety position sees it, attacks, and he's a little bit behind the guy, and he gets 15 yards. And it was like he could have tackled him right at the line of scrimmage and like forced a third down, and then it like changes. Ricky with his hesitation, that changes. Jacoby Thomas, if it bounces off his head, that changes things. If we don't get the face mask, it change. Like, it's just like the little stuff that could have affected the game differently.
No, I agree. I know, agree completely. But it's just one of those things that I just felt, and I even tweeted it out when we were playing Vandy. At one point, I felt like Vandy's offense did a good job. They did a lot of the same stuff. I think Chip Kelly was like, I'm going to do a lot of the same stuff everyone else has done, East and West, a lot of eye candy. And we just, against Vandy, you can stop it and flip it on its head when it's Vandy, but you can't when it's Ohio State, and the talent's that difference. But anytime if you're watching a game and you see one team dictate to the other and that team is playing on their pace and on how they want to play the game, usually it's pretty telling of how the game's going to finish, and because it's just really hard to stop it. It's like you're in a fight, you're taking punches, and how do you reset? And the other thing besides dictating is what I mean by that is just being, being unpredictable. Tim Banks was never really able to kind of pin his ears back and be unpredictable. Like I said, he tried to show a man blitz and he dropped out into a zone, and Will Howard knew exactly where to go the ball. All these other times where we've watched games and Tim Banks has got to speed these dudes up, and when he shows them that, they panic and throw us a ball or run around or whatever, and it just never happened.
And I mean, you look back on the entirety of the year, like this is the best offense that our defense has played all year,
no question.
And that wasn't. I don't even think that was a question going into the game as well.
Right.
Even though they had a bad performance versus Michigan, it was seen as this offense has more weapons than Tennessee has ever seen.
Yes.
Because the Georgia offense was the next best, and their weapons aren't what they used to be.
Agreed. Well, they've never been like this.
And they don't have wide receivers like Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and these guys that are out there. They just don't. And Carson Beck can make really good throws, but, I mean, the throws Will was making were next level.
Yeah.
I mean, next level throws. Seriously. I mean, you just watched it. Jackson Moy, I mean, literally put on his ass.
You get Jackson getting put on his ass, and then, like you said, it's once again.
Arian just dives into the puller.
You got Arian, who's a second-year guy at linebacker, who just takes himself out of the plate. And do you notice they do the pre-snap motion, which gets the entire shift?
Yep.
And then Edwin Spillman, like I said, for a true freshman, this is insane to be in this environment, but I thought he held his own. I mean, he reads it, and then he redirects and tries to get out. It's Arian Carter who's just blowing up nonsense. So,
blow up the puller. Who cares? Yeah. If you don't get to the running back, affect a running back, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, continue whatever plays you got next.
I thought there was some good fight. When we ended up getting the interception by Will. I mean, Will has just been consistent. I love that guy. I mean,
I do too.
A fighter, a guy who makes freaking plays, an athlete. I mean, that was one of the more athletic interceptions I've ever seen. So it's just stuff like that, and then I see good things from Arian. I see him attacking blockers on the screen where JP comes down the line and makes that tackle. Like, it's not made unless Arian attacks that front bubble. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I see him affect the ball whenever Will does get the interception, which you could have called DPI, but they could have called OPI on the other stuff. They could have called DPI on Ohio State too. So they were kind of holding their flags. And it's just like, he's getting there. It's a little inconsistent. And after, in the second half, it's just some of the same stuff. I'm seeing guys get open with the same thing I was talking about. Sending a guy deep, another guy in a corner. Sending a guy deep, Carnell Tate's just on a crosser right across, and he's wide open. I'm seeing the play action with guys coming into the flats, and they're just dumping it off. So it's I saw great play design. They got counter going to the left. And Will Howard pitches the ball out to the right to the running back in the second half. And I'm like, that's a fantastic play design. I love that. Yeah. That makes so much sense. You're confusing the linebackers. You've been using motion. And guys coming out of the backfield all day, they don't know which way to go. So I just thought they had a lot of good stuff out there. They did a lot of good things on offense, and they executed like crazy. I mean, they really did. Their guys made plays when they needed to. When the ball got thrown to them, they caught it. There was no drops. It was consistent the entire game by their offense. I think Will ended up with 4 incompletions the entire day. So,
yeah, I agree. There's defensively a lot of one-on-one plays that weren't made, a lot of one-on-one battles that weren't won. I want to shout out. I saw T-Lander. I thought T-Lander, which he always keeps fighting. The team always keeps fighting. He had a couple good read plays where he read and reacted, made a little tackle or split. So I think I almost caught myself talking about next year what we need to bring in and do and whatever. But it's just crazy to say that the defense let us down in this game with how bad the offense was. I mean, they had -6 yards at one point. But if you're supposed to be an elite D-line, one of the best defensive groups in the country, you can't give up 21.
I mean, what did the defense expect our offense? What did they expect from our offense? Because if you expected 21 points from our offense in the first half, that probably wasn't a good safe bet by the defense. What tells you that was going to happen from our offense this entire year? There's you should know that our offense starts slow and struggles, and Nico doesn't always execute. And we're going to have knockout, drag out kind of games.
Well, let's jump into that. Let's jump into
offense.
It's the same discussion that we've had.
It is
at quarterback play since last year with Joe. People are saying, well, the quarterback's doing his part, but receivers can't get open. Linemen aren't blocking. And Kyler, my thing is, I'm not defending anyone. I don't care if it's true that the receivers can or can't. I don't care if it was Nico's fault or not Nico's fault, the offensive line's fault. I don't care. I want it to be better, whatever it is. But I think where my feeling comes in of I want it to be correct. So I'm like, is it true that there were no guys wide open? Because there's a couple times I saw guys open that Nico did not let the ball go again. Now, I don't want to beat up on Nico a lot because I thought the guy, even though it still maybe looked quite a bit the same as it was this year, I still felt like, in my opinion, he took a step in his aggressive nature of running, getting upfield, doing stuff, trying to lead this team. And the kid's tough as nails. And I'm always going to rally behind someone like that for now. I'm always going to respect that person.
Yeah.
But it's funny. Jared Garantano's been making his rounds. I've been seeing on social media. He was talking about getting on podcasts. I think he did a radio hit. I did not hear it. But I bring him up because, the kid was tough as nails. And I'm happy he gave his all for Tennessee. But you and I also struggle a little bit with great, he gave his all. But he also did really, really, really stupid shit that hurt the team.
Yeah.
And so that's where we're like, well, kudos, man. I see people are like,
good
man.
job for being tough.
Yeah. It's I see people now. And if we ever have him on here, I'd love to have a conversation with him at some point if we did. But it's I see people now man, I'm surprised you still claim Tennessee as mean as bad people were, which people are crazy. They shouldn't do that. I would never, ever, ever react and reach out to a player and say mean things or bad things. So I don't want him to go through those things, but I'm also not going to have some massive love fest for a guy who just wasn't very good at times. And I'm using that as an example because it's top of mind to say right now, I really, really like Nico. I still understand that he is a redshirt freshman. This was his first year. I'm expecting him and really fingers crossed, hoping he takes the next step because of what we expected him to be as a 5-star. And
that's right.
It's plain and simple. He either takes another pretty giant step or he's not going to be overall that very good. He will end up being looked at as he ended up not being that good at Tennessee because he does have a long ways to go. I say all that to say that doesn't mean that I didn't really love and respect and absolutely admire the way he gutted it out.
Yeah.
He played his ass off, and I respect that. But my opinion is we still have a long way to go, especially in the passing game. And I'm very excited to hear about your thoughts on what the issue was. I'm still seeing stuff on Twitter that people still say, and I know some of you watch the pod, and some of you I really, really like and enjoy interacting with some of you. but still say that our offense from 2022 is down in South Florida. Guys, Golish, it's not Golish's offense. He's not the reason. It's our personnel. It's different stuff. It's all still Heupel's fault, and it's still his responsibility to get the results. But I can promise you, 2022 wasn't Golish.
No.
I mean, it's like, for quit saying that stuff. Like, I'm seeing that, but I don't know. What when you watched it, is it – because for me, it seemed like the same shit that I saw in other games this year where it was a combination of – there was a couple of times the offensive line looked horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
Horrendous. Just a normal TE stunt, a normal tackle-in stunt. And we got John Campbell falling, trying to carry a guy inside, nowhere to be found to pick up his guy on the outside. Lance Hurd does the exact same thing a couple plays later.
Yep.
I do see guys that probably aren't getting separation in man coverage on some things, but Nico still got to let it fly on sometimes. So I don't know. That was my frustration. And my thing is, I'm not taking any sides. I just want to know the actual truth, because you hear people call in and like, yeah, Nico, he's good. He just ain't got no time and no receivers. It's like, is that true? Or does Nico need some of the blame? Or is it, well, Nico, he can't let nothing, he don't throw nothing, and it's his fault. You know what I mean?
No, I know. I think it's a combination of everything. I think you can have a lot of fucking heart, and you can have a lot of toughness and push and want and a lot of want to. But if you don't do what you're supposed to do, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter how much drive you have and strength and heart if you're going the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. It's like, I love Nico's fight. I love, him pushing for that extra yardage. I love him wanting to take the responsibility on and wanting to be a professional. What I don't love is when I see from the back there's an open fucking dig route and he's not throwing the ball and he brings his eyes down. What I don't love is John Campbell gets beat, okay? You just called it out. He gets beat. But your running back steps up and overtakes that block. And honestly, as a quarterback, you're not going to get sacked yet.
I agree.
But in Nico's mind, holy shit, there's pressure all around me. I got to run. He takes his eyes down. He's got wide receivers open downfield. Those are the kinds of things where it's like, listen, John, yeah, you're setting up your quarterback to have a more difficult situation, but who is supposed to have the biggest impact on the field? The quarterback, the 5-star, the guy that we're putting a lot of our faith in. Hey, I need you to perform when other guys don't, right? This year, what's been happening is Dylan Sampson has been performing when other guys don't. When our offense has been struggling, Dylan Sampson has put the team on his fucking back, and he's made the difference. He has made the offensive line right when they miss a block because he breaks the tackle and still gets 6 yards regardless. He makes Nico look good because he picks up the pass protection for him when maybe he didn't call it correctly. Nico trusts Dylan more, and instead of all these RPOs where he's pulling and throwing, he actually hands it off. I can't tell you how many times I wrote down RPO and it was thrown. That means a run pass option, and Nico chose the pass. It is up to him. It is his decision. Do you want to hand this ball to the running back, or do you want to throw it outside? He decides to throw it outside, not Heupel, not the running back, not the wide receiver. Nico decides. And a lot of the time, he was not handing it off, even versus 5-man boxes. He just saw, hey, I got a little bit of cushion out there. That's where I'm going to throw it. There's times he missed on his throws. There's times that the wide receiver wasn't able to come back to it. There's times the balls got batted, and it's like, if he makes a different decision, hands the ball off, it's a different play. Something different comes out of it. So I hate when people are like, what's all the hype with Nico? The hype with Nico is he's perfect for a quarterback. He has the perfect build. He was a 5-star. He has a rocket arm. He can make the throws that you want him to make. It's just about whether he does it or not. Okay? That's why Joe Milton was a fucking 5-star. That's why he went to Michigan first. He was seen as this monster of a human, the next Cam Newton. but he didn't execute when he got on the field. So there's hype. There's going to be hype around 5 stars. But I really like Nico. I really do. Not to get too far into it, I expect a lot of growth over this offseason.
It has to happen.
A lot.
For the team to go where we want to go.
For the team to go anywhere past what we just did this year. We could do this again.
Yeah.
We could do this again. But we could go 10-2 again, not go to the SEC championship, and maybe make a playoff game. But we can do that.
But we even talked about it when we look back on some of these games. If Tennessee, in my wholehearted opinion, if he hits some of the plays and maybe some of the receivers make some of the catches, that Heupel's dialed up. I think the team could be potentially undefeated with maybe only one loss to Georgia. But all the other games not even being close.
Yeah.
Like run Florida out of the building, run Alabama out of the building. You don't even come close to losing to an Arkansas. So, and listen, as much as I love Heupel for all the things that he designs up and how beautiful they are, and even during this game, how bad his offensive line was playing, how nothing was happening offensively, that son of a gun still had me watching that game being like, what a beautiful call. His ass was fighting with no hands behind his back and one leg. He was out there hopping, trying to headbutt people, and he would still call a good play. I was like, man, that's a beautiful play call. Like, that's all you had. I think he even started the second half and goes like 4 or 5 wide and runs a quarterback draw. And I'm like, beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like, don't overthink this. Yeah. Our best weapon is Nico running it. So, like, try to do everything you can to get them to think pass and then run it. And then even he called it was a third down, and he called a speed option. And Ohio State did a good job stopping it. But then again, I even liked the play call, and it got stopped. I was like, kudos, hat tip, but I understand why you're doing it.
Yeah.
So there was plenty of times where I just think, and like I said, it's nothing personal.
And how do you think that's different with Dylan Sampson in the game on that speed
option? True. No,
versus Peyton Lewis.
Yeah.
Like, yes, that linebacker did a great job getting to Peyton and making the tackle in the backfield. Everyone watching this, even Ohio State fans, if you are watching this, do you feel better about Peyton Lewis getting that ball or Dylan Sampson getting that ball?
Yeah.
Don't tell me, oh, he got tackled, revisionist history, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to explain something to you. As an opponent, who are you more scared of? If you're that linebacker and you see number 27, the third string running back is a freshman, or the all-SEC offensive player of the year.
Yeah. It hits different.
It hits different.
Yeah.
It does. But just to go through some plays as an example,
yeah,
I called out what you mentioned with the John Campbell thing, where he gets beat, but Nico still has time. There's plays where Nico has time and scrambles, and you don't get to see what's downfield. But you're like, okay, well, I guess he scrambled because nobody was open. But we don't know that for sure.
Well, that's why I went back, and we've always talked about it. We do have the ability to get the coach's tape. We don't necessarily do because most of the time we can still see everything we need to see. But for this game, they had the Skycast. So I watched it normal, and then I went back and watched it normal. But then I even went back and watched Skycast, which I have pulled up right now for different stuff. The Skycast is great.
It is. It shows you that quarterback view. Yeah. But like the first drive, he scrambles. We have a good counter run. It's now third down. He can step up in the pocket and chooses to run, like just start running.
Yeah. It's a wide open dig.
And there's a wide open dig. And for whatever reason, Nico brings his eyes down. He does not keep them up.
Or, Kyler, there's times where I think he does see it and he doesn't want to let it rip. Whether I don't know if he's worried about throwing a pick or not completing it or whatever. And the other thing is, too, we're not being personal to Nico. I just want to win, and I don't care if my quarterback is 6'6" and has a rocket arm, or if he's 5'11", 220, sloppy body. But if that guy knows how to work a pocket, step up work a pocket, step up in it, go outside to the left, go out to the right, and deliver a pass, I don't care what he looks like or who he is. It's just frustrating to me when the plays are there to be made. And I would be just as frustrated if Nico delivered perfect balls and drop, because that would be unacceptable as well. Yeah. But it's the same thing that you and I get frustrated with Joe Milton, where we would watch and be like, I had to hear all these people say he doesn't have any offensive line, he doesn't have receivers. Then I watch, I'm like, well, that guy's open. And
I'm like, look at the pass protection, and that guy's wide open. And he doesn't even throw it.
No, let alone connect on it. Yeah. He doesn't throw it. So, anyways, it's not.
And then like the next drive, it's one guy every time. The next drive, Carrot gets absolutely stood up on a run play.
Lance Hard did too.
He gets stood up and then goes nowhere. Then Lance oversets the defensive end. They run a twist. I swear to everything, Christ, holy jeez, that D end is on his leg. He is literally set up on Lance's left leg. Where are you going, Lance?
Bro, it's crazy.
Where the hell are you going? Why the hell are you setting the heck back there? He's right in front of you. Pick your foot up and set it right back down because you're in the perfect position. Your left leg is supposed to split the defender. That's how you play as a tackle, as a left tackle. Your left leg splits your defensive end. You're in good position. He's already in position. Why do you think he's lined up tight? Because he's running a game. He can't run a game if he's lined up in the 9 technique. If he's spread out wide, he's so far away from his other guy, he can't run a game. Why is he in there? Think as a freaking lineman. What's going on? Why is he lined up differently? Why is he looking inside at the 3 technique? Why did he talk to him before the fucking ball was snapped? Pay attention to these things. I just saw it and was like, where the hell are you going? It makes it difficult for everybody else. So he gets beat on the twist, and I'm like, okay, here's this pressure. In my head, I go, this is not good by Lance Hurd. There is pressure in Nico's face. Quarterback, what is your automatic thought process when there is pressure in your face? I need to get out of here, or I need to dump the ball off to my hot receiver.
He was there.
Who is there? Your running back in the flat with 15 yards in front of him. Why is it not coming to Nico immediately?
Yeah.
Why are the things when he looks over and that hitch isn't open on the right side, why is it not automatically in his head going, I bet that left one's open?
Yeah.
And looking right back over there and wanting to throw.
Yeah.
Why is it not pressures in my face? I really don't have anywhere to go. You know what? I know that this guy's in the flat over here. Let me look over there. Why is that not popping into his head? Maybe experience.
Yeah.
Maybe he needs more time doing it. But those things aren't. Those things are not coming to him right now.
Yeah.
They just aren't. They haven't been all year. We've seen it. That's why we score 0 points in the first half versus Florida and Alabama.
Yeah.
Because those things aren't coming to him.
And I think, he is a redshirt freshman. So maybe if he was a true freshman, I'd be like, totally understand it. A redshirt freshman, there's still a good amount of leeway because he's around the program, but he wasn't in it. But there is a little bit of nerve and worry to me and to my fandom that's like, is it going to be experience? Is he going to see this? Because sometimes I think a lot with the quarterback position, it's you have it or you don't.
Yeah.
And like there's even times where it's not that he has it, but then he just does too much and make a mistake because he's forcing something. Sometimes I'm like, bro, you're just not seeing it. Like, I don't know. So that's why I really think probably the first 3 games of next year, 4 games of next year, I need to look at our schedule to see if we have a pretty good tough. Syracuse might be decent to start the game, but like I don't want to see him against a Kent State. I don't want to see I need to see him against someone good to be like, hey, do we feel like he really took a big jump? Because if not, then like this sounds terrible, but it's kind of like who on to the next, bro. Like, and that's a crazy thing to say, but if you're just not executing, and like I said, all this is Heupel's responsibility. And maybe for Nico, it really wasn't. He's just always been the best athlete out there that he really didn't have to do a bunch of reading because he went to his first read and it was either open or he plays a perfect ball.
Maybe he never really felt pressure in high school. Maybe because the defensive line is not athletic enough.
And that's what I was going to get is to
get into his head.
Right, because he knows. We played with a quarterback at Catholic that even when somebody would show pressure on him, Tyler knew that he could just run around and spin out or stiff arm or whatever. He still would keep his eyes down. It feels like it hits different when you're in high school compared to when you're playing at Ohio State or at Georgia or whatever else. And so that's my thing is now he's thinking, holy crap, I'm running for my life compared to in high school. I'm just running around until one of my boys gets open and then I'm going to sling this mud for 50.
Yeah.
So, but I do want to ask you a question. A lot of people have been on Ellerby. A lot of people have been on Coach Martinez. Now people are getting on the receivers coach and stuff like that. You've watched basically every snap of everything Glenn Ellerby's done for 4 years now. You've been at practice. Like, do you personally feel like that little stuff where you're saying like John Campbell, you're lined up. I mean, Lance Hurd, you're lined up, like reset. Like, are you confident he is saying those things and they're just not applying them? I mean, at some point you have to get a coach that somehow makes it be applied. But like, what's your thoughts on him as a coach?
Some of those things I think are so obvious that it feels like he has to be saying that to them when he's talking technique with them. But then it's like, if they continue to do this, then maybe he's not. Maybe he's not going over that kind of stuff. Because even last year, I love the row grading guys, but our tackles weren't good in pass pro last year either. There were times where they're getting beat on simple stuff. Later in the game, John Campbell gets beat on a dip from Jack Sawyer. On a dip from a 280-pound white dude. What the hell are you doing? How is that possible? He's not even like he chopped away your freaking hands. He just rushed and went like this.
Yeah, and
dipped underneath you. And I'm like,
I know you like throwing the white guy out there, but it's not a Nick Bosa. It's not a Joey Bosa.
It ain't. It ain't even close.
Yeah.
It's not a Watt.
Yeah.
It's not a Bosa. Jack Sawyer ain't that. Jack Sawyer's going to be a backup in the NFL, maybe. He's going to play special teams. Love it for him. He's going to play some special teams.
You don't see him being a starter?
I mean, dude, if Dante Fowler's not a fucking starter, no, I don't see Jack Sawyer being a starter.
So, anyways, but yeah, back to the LRB. You do like have you ever been when we were over at practice, or did you ever say anything that you're like, what are we doing here, guy?
No, I mean, there hasn't been anything where I'm specifically like he's coaching the wrong thing, but it's like, how much are you coaching? What all are you going over? Are you going over their technique? Are you going over how they should be attacking certain pass rushes? Are you going over the little stuff or not? I don't know. Because there's also time in meetings. There's also time in walkthroughs. Are you going over blitz pickups? Are you going over what technique to use when they do games? When it's a TE, when it's an ET, what are you supposed to be doing? Am I coaching you up on that? Yeah, I see some of it. I've watched the one-on-ones where I see him go up to guys afterwards and try and like coach up on stuff. But, sometimes it's also like I look at the demeanor that Lance Hurd has and that John Campbell has. And I'm like, I don't know if those guys are really the most coachable people in the world.
Yeah.
I watch them. I watch them walk around. I watch their attitudes that they have. And I'm like, are they able to really go to Lance and be like, hey, your footwork is shitty. What the fuck are you doing? And Lance take it and be like, yeah, you're right. I overset that guy and I didn't have good footwork or hand placement. Or is it going to be like, nah, I know what I'm doing, man. I've been playing for a long time. I mean, I could see that happening. Yeah. But listen, I'm very happy that David Sanders Jr. is coming. That's all I got to say. Very, very happy. I cannot wait to see him out there.
Yeah. Anything else on some of the offensive stuff?
I really liked the drive before half. I mean, to keep on fighting like that, playing with what you got. I thought Nico had some good throws on that drive. That was where he hit Squirrel on that dig.
Good catch by Squirrel.
Yeah, good catch by Squirrel, which he gets hurt. He's running quarterback outside zone, which I thought was great. The second play of that drive to score before half, it's an RPO apparently. Nico pulls the ball to throw it, and the wide receiver is not even running a route. So there was miscommunication somewhere.
Yeah.
Somewhere somebody made the wrong decision, whether that's the wide receiver not getting the play in or Nico thinking there's a pass option and there's not, where he should just handed the ball off. Because how much did we talk about play defense, run the football, play defense, run the football? Every freaking talking head all across the country said it about Tennessee. And how often were we actually running the fucking ball? Not a lot. And they didn't have heavy boxes. I literally thought Ohio State's going to come in here with heavy boxes and man up our wide receivers and make Nico throw the ball.
I did too.
And what did we do? We lined up, spread out, and started throwing the ball immediately. And I think that's because Dylan Sampson.
Could have been.
And then doesn't help that Deshaun Bishop gets hurt as well during the game. Doesn't help that Spraggs goes out for a bit during the game.
Yeah.
But, run it into a light box. They had six-man boxes a lot. I'm just like, please keep running the ball. I thought Nico scrambled really well. He was making dudes miss. He's always been really good on his feet. We saw that in the Iowa game last bowl year. Yeah. But that's not what we need to win a national championship. It's not what we need to win the SEC. We need more than just his legs. A couple times where, he threw balls to guys that ended up being incomplete or caught, and there's 3 Ohio State defenders around him. Like, how in the hell is that the guy you want to throw the ball to? Why is Brew on the dig where it ends up being an incomplete pass and there's 4 Ohio State defenders right there? Why is that the route you threw to? Why is on 3rd down you threw a hitch to Kitzelman and there are 3 Ohio State defenders on top of him? Why is that the route? If there's 3 guys there and 4 guys rushing, that's 7. You got 3 other wide receivers out there on routes and 4 other defenders. So somebody's got to be more open than Kitzelman. I like going for it on the 4th and 1, just really quick, get up to the line, run it up the middle. Good pickup by Deshaun.
I was slightly nervous with it being in shotgun.
Yeah, I agree. Then on the next play, after that 4th and 1, I'm looking, and the offensive line is blocking for a draw. They're blocking for a draw play. And Nico tries to throw the ball to the outside hitch, and it gets batted down. It gets batted down because they're blocking for a draw. John Campbell is not blocking Jack Sawyer for a pass to the outside. He's like, go upfield if you want. Who gives a shit? This is a draw up the middle. And Jack Sawyer's right there to bat the ball down. That is who's getting the right call here, right? Who's telling who what? The offensive line gets the call from Nico. So I'm kind of sitting there going, Nico, why? Why would you think that you're going to be able to complete this pass outside, even if you have numbers, if your offensive line is not blocking for that pass?
Yeah, and I think
it's not like the O-line looks over to the fucking sideline and gets the call.
For 6'6" guy, we've saw a lot of batted balls this year, and I started thinking about it, and that one makes more sense where you're saying it was a draw, they're blocking for a draw, and that's why Jack's not on the ground because he would have gotten cut or whatever else.
Yeah, they jump set, something,
right. And so, but there are times where I've noticed that these guys for the good, well-coached teams, whether it's Ohio State or Georgia or I think maybe Bama did it. I know Georgia definitely did it and Ohio State definitely did it, but it's a 3rd and 4, it's a 2nd and 5. And they anticipate those quick either hitches or slants. Mm-hmm. And so the linebacker knows, like, hey, I'm supposed to be blitzing here, but I can't get there. So they just stop and put their hands up in throwing lane.
Yeah, that was one in the 4th quarter. We tried to throw a slant, and that linebacker just backed up and
sat right on it. And it's a great coaching. I mean, it's a great coaching technique when you're playing a team like us. I mean, any team's going to have quick game. Any team has quick pass game. But with something like this, it's like, hey, you're not going to get there. You know what they like to do. And that's, I just thought it was a kudos to those teams that have done it. And I think we're going to continue to see it. And how does our 6'6" guy be able to work in windows? I mean, Drew Brees, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and I get it. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, so it's hard to compare a Hall of Famer to a redshirt freshman. I'm not doing that. I'm doing it compared to just playing the quarterback position. But guys like 5'10", 5'11", and he worked every window possible. But it's because of he knew where to go, how to do it, things like that. So
and he did extra things to make sure that he wasn't getting balls batted. He knew he was shorter than everybody else. He knew that he had to look over his offensive lineman. He knew that he had to anticipate what the routes were going to be because he's not going to be able to see them.
And I think that's the perfect thing is the anticipation and the knowing. And that's some of the stuff you've talked about with Nico. Like, hey, if you know this isn't here, you should be able to flip that head around and be like, number 2, because defenses are a puzzle.
It's also like, if I know that's not there, it's telling me what the defense is.
Correct. And that's what I was about to say. It's a puzzle. So if you look there and be like, oh, he's sitting there, then I automatically know this is open, or this is open, or that's open, or guess what? They're all covered. And I got to go out here to Dylan Sampson or Deshaun Bishop and just hope that they make one guy miss and you maybe get 5 yards.
I mean, it's your pre-snap and post-snap analyzing the defense.
Yeah.
Pre-snap, maybe you can figure out if it's man or zone. And then once the ball is snapped, figure out what kind of zone it is and what kind of man it is. And that will tell you where to take the fucking ball.
Yeah.
It's not all about my first read isn't there's a guy on my first guy. Let me look at the second guy. How about there's a guy on your first guy because it's 2-man under. So that means whoever's going to be in the middle of the field is going to be open. Oh, yeah, I remember there's a dig on the left side who's coming open.
Yeah.
I know that about this specific play. I remember that my ex is running a dig. It's like I don't need to think about the second, then the third, then the fourth. I can go, I know my third is going to be open because I see what the defense is doing.
Yeah. No.
Those are the kinds of things that I want from Nico that I haven't necessarily seen. And you know, that drive after the half was so important, and it really set up the end of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what ended it.
Agreed.
Honestly, is us not converting on the drive after half. It changes the entire complexity. Ohio State has all the momentum, and they take it. And it boils down to we get a first down after 3 plays. We have a new set of downs. We run a positive running play about 4 yards. Then we try and hit a comeback to Brazel, and it is incomplete. And I sit there and think, I got a light box. I could probably run this again and make it 3rd and short. Or I could throw this comeback to Brazel. And if it's man coverage, then my only thought process is this isn't completed because Brazel didn't run a good enough route for it to be completed. That corner knew what Brazel was doing. He jumped it way before Brazel was ready. 3rd and 7, we try and run the speed option with John Campbell getting up to linebacker, and it's not there. It's just not. The game feels different with Dylan Sampson in the game. I think we run the ball a lot more with Dylan Sampson in the game. I think we run the ball right away. First play of the game, we run the ball. Dylan Sampson is healthy. We're running the ball, and we're going to continue to run the ball. That's how I see it. That's how it should have been done.
So I'll be honest with you. I think Heupel, I would disagree in the fact that, like, I feel like Heupel knows Dylan's health going into it, and there's a chance he might not have him. I think he still should be confident enough with Deshaun and Peyton Lewis to run the ball. Now, it is very scary thinking if one of these guys gets the smallest bit of injuries, then you're down to one guy. So maybe that's why he's wanting to throw it. But I would still hope that we would still not let our game, like, we would not change our game plan almost the way Ohio State did to Michigan. But it's probably knowing Heupel, it probably is the personnel.
He has always changed his offensive scheme based on who is out there on the field.
Right. So it probably was
from first year to yesterday or Saturday.
Yeah.
He has changed the way he plays based on who is on the field and what they're doing on the field. If my tackles are sucking right now and I got a fucking 3rd string tackle in there versus Oklahoma, I'm not putting in passing situations and drop back and having Nico's back be exposed.
Yeah.
If I don't have Dylan Sampson, I'm not really going to run the ball. If I don't have a really good running back and I'm not getting a lot of stuff on the ground, then I'm going to throw it.
Or run with the quarterback.
Run with the quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to take advantage of what I have, right? I'm going to have a SEC Player of the Year at quarterback. I'm going to have an SEC Player of the Year at running back 2 years later. So it's just, hey, what do I have? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? That's what I'm working with. That's what he's trying to do. And I mean, I'll just say it again. Like, Nico isn't in a place to be a national championship winning quarterback. He is in a place to win, to go 10-2 and get his ass beat in a playoff game.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's really good compared to what we used to have.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he's still a redshirt freshman.
So it's like
I'm not, but see, when I say he's a redshirt freshman, that doesn't mean that I'm automatically assuming that he's just going to be better next year. You would hope that's the natural progression. But I've been around sports and watched a lot of sports, and it's like it doesn't just automatically mean it's going to happen.
Yeah, if he's not, next guy, come on in.
Yeah,
come on in.
Yeah, because I would feel like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, you're the one that played it, and you were on the campus for 5 years, and I mean, you know how long it took you. I mean, to get ready. So I mean, is it 2 years that we get him? 3 years in the program? 2 years of starting? Is that enough? Like, I don't know. Hopefully, we don't have those conversations. Like I said, it's just me being a Tennessee fan, wanting us to be good, and a little worried that, I don't know, because sometimes it's one of my favorite sayings. It's once someone shows you who they are, believe them, and it's very hard for a leopard to change its print.
Yeah.
And so I just get nervous. That's it. It's nothing against Nico, but anyways, to wrap this bad boy up, obviously moving forward, we're going to talk about transfer portal.
We're going to break down the rest of the recruiting class that's signed because we've got about half of them.
Yep.
So we're going to get the rest.
Yep. So we're going to do that. I was going to say that. So we got that. Like I said, we'll do transfer portal stuff. And then at some point we will just do our overall final season. We're removed from the loss, final season recap, and then kind of what we want to see moving forward. And the other thing is too, which is pretty exciting. By the time that we record the next one and even the next one after that, there's going to be a lot of movement of new guys we bring in.
Yep.
So those are the new Christmas toys. And then obviously we see if we lose any other people.
Yeah.
So, I just think ultimately with this game, I struggled with, were they just better? Were they just better talented team and there was nothing that we could do? And I think you kind of helped me answer that. But, and now I think it's just, hey, they're still the better team. If we play 10 times, they probably win 7, 6.5.
I would say 7.
7, 6.5, 8.
7. Yeah.
But it makes me feel better that I do still feel like there's a chance that if everyone plays to their potential, like you always say, I've seen you play up here, then that's my expectation. The sad thing is we've seen them play down here, and that's what they showed more often. I mean, when you think about it, a lot of these guys showed us who they were. John Campbell played a lot of football for us these past 2 years. He is what he is.
Yep.
Spraggins, he is what he is. Lance Hurd's still young, but he is what he is for this year. So it's kind of like we just kind of hope going into this year or to this past Saturday that they all played to their level, and they didn't. They did the opposite, and that's why you got your ass beat on national television. But overall, I'll let you know, I still think it's a really great season. I'm still really excited for the future, and I'm excited to dive into that on the next pod.
I am too, because I don't think anybody was like, hey, it's definitely going to be a national championship. It's definitely going to be an SEC championship going into the year. I think it was like, all right, Nico's coming in. Let's see what happens.
Yep.
And, oh, great, our third string running back is coming back, and Dylan Sampson. He looked pretty good last year with Joe Milton. How about maybe he steps up even more and he's really good? He was amazing.
Yeah.
He became the SEC Player of the Year.
Yep.
That's not what everybody expected, and he made the biggest difference on our offense this year and made it to where we actually won those games.
Yep.
Multiple times.
It's always go Vols.
It's always go Vols.
Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you guys for watching and listening. If you are watching, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment. If you're just listening, rate, review, download, re-download. Follow us on all social medias. You'll see it in the description. Thank you for being just awesome fans throughout this season. Didn't end how we wanted it to, but I think it was successful nonetheless. Fuck Ohio State. You know what I mean? And as always, go Vols.